Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage. Today I'm back working on my 64 Dodge Dart GT LS Turbo project. Today we're working on the back of the car. I'm going to rip out the 8 3/4 and the super stock leaf springs, which were causing it to list pretty hard to the left. If you open the driver's door by accident, you probably fall out. Now, it wasn't that bad, but you get my drift. Back in the day, that was a hot setup. But in this world, I'm going to change it up to something at least looks like it sits level and probably has more traction. Time will tell. I have nothing to compare it to, so we're just going to soldier on in what I think is right and somewhat inexpensive. That's the plan today. I'm going through all the boxes of stuff that came with this car. I have a complete poly spring bushing kit, which is cool, but the Calvert style traction bars I came with, you replace that with a solid aluminum bushing. But at least I have poly for the rear. Plus I have 2 sets of poly, believe it or not, and a set of rubber ones, factory ones. I have ball joint boots. Those are pretty cool. All kinds of polyurethane stuff for the front of the car. The transmission mount, I was looking for that when I was adapting to the Power Glide, wondering what it looked like, and there it is. Maybe I'll revisit the Power Glide mount, we'll see. And all kinds of boxes of, Mopar-y goodness. Because I'm a die-hard Mopar guy, you can tell. Even, I swear, somewhere in the futuristic fortune telling, somebody knew I was going to need a set of these too, plug boots, protectors for my turbo setup. So hey, it all came with the car. The radiator came with it that I'm using. I'm pretty sure I have a new set of rear shackles here somewhere. Out in the storage box I have more stuff I need to sell, like the original exhaust manifolds and motor mounts and stuff I'm not going to use. It has a new heater box. I believe it has all the wiper linkage. It was a cornucopia of extra parts. I had to put the wheels and tires back on the Dart and set it on the ground so I could reposition the rear lift arms so I can remove, eventually, the subframe connectors. Now it's back in the air and I've started dismantling the rear shackles. I just want to jack the leaf spring up where it belongs, just to eyeball the pinion angle, just out of curiosity. Doesn't affect anything I'm going to do. And then I'm going to remove everything, and it pretty much comes apart with a wrench, so it should not take very long. I can't even replicate where the leaf spring should be, but it already improved the pinion angle a lot. I suspected it was the rear shackle placement that caused all the problems, because when I welded on the spring pads before I even owned the car, I had a piece of flat bar between the old spring pad and the new one to position it. So I don't see how it could have got messed up. It couldn't have. So all right, time to rip it apart. Jack said it works pretty sweet. The forward spring relocation boxes, that's a pretty decent weld. No weld underneath. Most of it looks like this guy welded it. This side, same story, a little more weld underneath. Not as good over here. I don't even know if they're that square, but I could probably fix them in place. I'm going to support here anyway, because I'm not leaving just that piece of 1/8 inch tin holding the leaf spring. So we can address and fix that. On the rear, I'll cut off that tubular piece, and for what I can gather by putting the car on the ground and watching what the rear of the shackle moves back and forth, I'm just going to use that hole right there. I see some people use half the hole. In my situation, I'm going to use that hole and then make some L brackets off the original leaf spring hanger area. Comparing the original super stock springs, the eyelets are lined up in the front, and by the time you get to the back, you can see why the car sits higher on one side for sure. I understand what Mopar was trying to do, and in its day it worked. They just put a lot of spring on the right rear. But in the interest of low buck, I bought another left side super stock spring. It's of identical construction and clamps and spacing. And that'll guarantee the car sits level, and the Calvert style traction bar will handle the traction issue. No question, if I was trying to go really fast on leaf springs, the Calvert split monoleafs seem to be the hot setup. But in my case, this is basically a street car that may not ever see a drag strip. This is my $240 eBay Calvert ripoff, I believe. I have to say, it came out of the box just like this. It looks pretty good. We'll see how it goes together. There's no way I could duplicate this for $240 shipped to my house. Not possible. So, again, I'll let you know. I feel torn between not buying the name brand, but in this case, I was trying to go low buck. I did buy a genuine Mopar super stock left side rear leaf spring that's made in Mexico. I have this Beltec 1-inch rear lowering block kit that I was hoping to just steal the U-bolts out of. I don't think I have room or the desire to lower it an inch. My tire and wheel clearance may suffer if I do, but these are 3-inch ID U-bolts. But my Curry housing 9-inch Ford has 3 1/4 axle tubes, super beefy. They can be either size, 3 or 3 1/4. In this case, I got the big ones. So I had to buy more U-bolts, and I did buy genuine Calvert because that's what came up first, and the price was reasonable. So those are a few days behind. I will say I'm impressed. I ordered the traction bars and the left rear spring last Monday night, and they were both at my house by Thursday. That's pretty good. So now we're wide open in the back, lots of room for activities. Need to cut out this piece of trunk floor where the spare tire used to be and fix that ungodly mess. Aforementioned, remount the rear leaf spring hangers. I can't wait to remove all this extra junk for one. Two, get rid of these pieces of square tubing. And I think I'm going to weld a piece where the front frame rail lines up on the back side of the torsion bar cross member, and probably run roll cage tube 1 5/8 and then put a bend in it and end up back here. So it'll come out and then head that way. It's my tentative plan anyway. And then when I do the cage, the kickers that come down from the main hoop, I'll have to cut the floor out here, and I'll hit those directly and then patch the floor back in afterwards. So I'm still dreaming up exactly how the main hoop of the roll cage is going to go inside the car, but that's not today's project. But this original Mopar undercoating looks like it's gonna be fun removing, so I can weld and do stuff like that. But somebody else did it over here, so it will come off. I dislike having vehicles tied up on the lift, at least before it had wheels and would move, so I'll try to roll along pretty quickly on this project, but I'm glad I put that front stand under there because it now has a lot of tension on it. So I've had the situation before where you get a surprise, you remove one end of the car or the other, and she gets light. I never talked a whole lot about the condition of the car. It's not great, however, it's certainly not bad. The rear quarters around the wheel well opening, and definitely the lower back here has a lot of mud in it. But I'll be able to repair most of that. I was going to trim out around here anyway, so that's going to get rid of that ugliness for the most part. I could probably carefully trim back here a little bit and at least make it look better. But rocker and floor wise, in the front of the car isn't bad at all. There's one soft area on the back side of the rocker in the rear. It's actually, that's the floor. In and around the area I'm going to be working for the place to land my main hoop, so we'll take care of that too. It's a spot where the factory undercoating missed on both sides. And the bottoms of the front fenders certainly have some mud in them too, but it'll be a long time. The paint in the car actually isn't that at all. The rest of the body looks pretty decent. Doors are good. There's one spot around the rear window opening that needs attention. But hey, it's old and cheap. I see just parts cars going for $3,000 or $4,000, so I had to save it. And by saving it, I mean LS swapping, Power Glide 9-inch Ford. I believe the weld-on spring purchase I'm going to use a Dodge Mopar replacement. That's something. At no point along the way have I been keeping track of the money coming in and going out. I probably should have, because I've done pretty well selling off the extra pieces I don't need. And that keeps me rolling, buying more supplies to put it back together. I don't want to have a lot of money into this piece of junk, but eventually it won't be a piece of junk anymore. It'll be somewhere in between. I still enjoy the concept of the rat rod or the rat hot rod. I have trouble executing it, but there's no reason the craftsmanship can't be decent and other areas not as pretty. So we'll see how it all turns out. But for today, we're going to call it a day. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in a couple days. We'll be hopefully making some progress. I'd like to get the front and rear leaf spring mounts situated, get the springs and the rear end back in. My U-bolt should be here Monday or Tuesday, so get the car where at least I could roll it again if I had to, and then I'll work on the subframe connectors and eventually the roll cage. So enjoy your weekend.